boogity, boogity, get up on your feet.
Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to the DW Show. Hey, have you missed me? I know I haven't been on for a couple of weeks. Sorry about that. I've been really busy. I was laboring out in the ocean trying to catch big fish. And guess what? I caught one. Had a great big old mouth. I called it Hammond. Yep, I caught me a Hammond. But I had a great time in Nantucket. Went to the Downy Flake every morning. Ate a lot of sugar donuts and blueberry pancakes and had great food and a good time. Got all rested up. Now I'm getting ready to go to Australia. You believe that? I'm going down under. I'm going down, boys. I'm going down. But I'm looking forward to it. The V8 Supercar Series, the Bathurst 1,620 miles on a 17-turn road course. That's where Marcos Ambrose came from, and I am excited about going down. I'm going to get to ride. They're going to give me a ride around the track. Jason Bright, he's one of the hot drivers down there. He's going to give me a couple of laps around the track. I'm a little nervous about that. I'm not a good passenger. I'm going to do it. But the first corner, think about this. 17 turns, and guess what the first turn's name is? Hell Corner. And I got a feeling it's probably going to scare the hell out of me because I'm pretty sure old Jason's not going to say, mamby-pamby around and, you know, hand me a box of Kleenex because I'm crying. I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm really excited about going down for this race. I'm a big fan of the Supercar, V8 Supercar Series, and me and Mike Joy, along with Lee Diffie and some of the folks that normally do those races, we're going to add a little American flavor to it. You know, we don't have to know about mates and fizzed up and Vegemite. We don't have to know all that stuff. We just have to know, you know, bologna sandwiches and dat gum and, you know, the kind of things that we do. So we'll mix them together. It should be a lot of fun. Speaking of a lot of fun, old Tony Stewart is having a ball right now. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. That worked out pretty good. I like that. Holy smoke. 2 wins. First two races in the chase. I didn't see that coming. And I don't think he did either. I mean, if you listened to him a few weeks ago, he said, we don't even deserve to be in the chase. And here he is, leading the points by 7 over Kevin Harvick. But you know what, folks? It just shows you, these race teams today are so technologically driven that overnight some of these engineers can come up with a new setup. Whether it's not necessarily shock, spring, sway bar, but some geometry change in the car, some different position of things in the front geometry, and that car comes alive. We saw it with, think back to the middle of the summer when the 2 and the 22 were out to lunch, not to be heard of much. Brad Keselowski was 23rd in the points, hadn't won a race. All of a sudden they go to Kansas, they win the pole, they win the race, and they've been on a tear ever since, particularly Brad Keselowski, who, folks, he might be considered, in some people's eyes, a dark horse because he and Paul Wolf are somewhat rookies in this chase, but I am going to just go out on a limb and say they may be the team you have to beat. And I only say that because with rookies, I've always said this about rookies, what they don't know, they don't know. And so you get into this situation where everybody else is under all this pressure, and listen, the vice is tight. When these races wind down, you get in those last 2 or 3 and it's a close points battle, the vice gets mighty tight. And sometimes what you don't know could be a big advantage. So we'll see. But normally, I'll just say normally, spirits, you know, spirits, that normally pays off. And if Jimmy Johnson is going to have a shot at championship number 6, hey, remember that movie, Clint Eastwood, Dirty Harry, stand over that kid, you know, got his foot on his throat, got his gun pointing his head. Have I fired 5 times? Or have I fired 6? I think that's where Jimmy Johnson is this weekend at Dover. If he's gonna have a shot at this championship, it's got to start this weekend. He's won the last 2 races there in the fall. He's got 6 wins more than anybody else at Dover. They usually have a pretty good car there. So if he's going to get back in this championship chase, Tony Stewart, Kevin Harvick going to have kind of bad days, maybe even Jeff Gordon a little bit, and Jimmy Johnson's going to have to win. They're going to have to get what Chad calls max points. You win practice, you win the pole, and you win the race. And that's what they're going to have to do this weekend. If they're going, this is a statement weekend for that 48 team. This is not the 48 team that I'm accustomed to seeing. Chad and Jimmy are not on the same page. When Jimmy Johnson tells Chad Canals basically to shut up, that's out of character. I hadn't heard that before. They just hadn't been a part of that team's chemistry before. So if this team is going to get back to where it needs to be, it's got to do it this weekend at Dover. So that's something to keep your eye on. And I just want to say one thing about fuel mileage. Listen, watch the gas man on these cars. This new fueling system, all year long, early in the year particularly, teams were having trouble getting their cars full of fuel. And now, I hadn't heard of too many complaints about that, except that if you watch these fuel guys, tire guys can put tires on these cars in about 12 seconds. You can't gas the car in 12 seconds. So the crew chief's got to hold that car there an extra second or two to be sure that fuel cell is topped all the way off. I think that's where the disparity in these fuel mileage runs are coming from. One guy stays there, Tony Stewart, this past week at New Hampshire. He stayed. Darian held him a couple of extra seconds to be sure they had that car full of fuel before he released him. Tony had plenty of fuel. He'd done a burnout, drove to Victory Lane the whole 9 yards. So watch the fuel man. The clue is, they say, is that bubbles coming up in the gas can. If you see bubbles coming up in the can, that's the vent, and it means the fuel cell is full. But you watch that gas man, he's kind of in a precarious situation. While they're doing rights, he plugs in can 1. And when they're coming around, he has to just step back and get can 2, and then he has to plug in. Well, that stepping back, plugging back in, and tire changers, a jack falls, the car leaves. Did he get it full? That's the question. And so I think some of these fuel mileage races that become so popular, part of it's because they're just not getting a dadgum thing full of gas. So watch this weekend and see if you notice anything. Could be a fun weekend. The old Monster Mile, you know, Miles the Monster, Concrete Canyon. This is the weekend I love. Concrete crab cakes, baby. Go down to Sambo's, get you a big old crab cake sandwich, and bring her on over to the racetrack. And remember one thing about Dover? She's self-cleaning. No matter where you wreck on that racetrack, you're always going to go to the bottom. The straightaways are banked, the turns are banked, the walls are close. Somebody gets into you, whoom, right down the inside you go and hit that inside wall. It can be big. This place can be monstrous, and it probably will be. Listen, I'm going to Australia next week. I'm going to be gone all next week. But when I get back, I'm going to have some stories to tell. I'm going to go down there. I'm going to tie me kangaroo down. I'm going to put me some shrimp on the Barbie. And I'm going to get fizzed up. See you next week.